And we're live.
Hello and welcome to Live Coding Happy Hour for, I don't know what day it is, June 2nd? Something like that.
Sounds plausible. It's
All
June.
right. All right. I am Dave Slusher, developer evangelist with the Platform Business Unit. We're two this week, and my partner is
Josh Nerius. I'm also a developer evangelist working in the developer program here. And yeah, I'm a little discombobulated on a Friday. I think we both are. It's been a long week.
I'm absolutely did. So it's a short week. I'm gonna be honest. I'm still consider this like the post Knowledge 17. I still don't feel like I've ever gotten back to normal from Knowledge 17. So trying to get back on track. It's the two of us. Chuck is also trying to get back on track. He's got a timely demo that he's working on. So it'll be you and me. And we actually pivoted about 7-8 minutes ago where we're actually going to take a little different slant than we originally planned on this. So what we're going to work on today is some more of my travel tracker application. But what we're going to do is even focus, before we even get on that, we're going to take a step back into project management. And when it's just you working on a project, how do you know what to do next? How do you know when you're done? How do you know when it's releasable? We're gonna take a little bit of time and kind of work on that. And it works out really well because you are ultimately one of the customers of the app I'm building. So we can kind of discuss it from a couple different directions that way.
Sounds like a plan. Before
we get into that, what are you drinking today, Josh?
So today I have one of the less interesting beers I've had in a while. So I've got a Modelo Especial.
You've already spoiler alerted a little about how you feel about it.
No, not at all. No. It's just the beer is less interesting, not the topic.
No, that's what I mean. The beer. You've already jumped ahead to the end.
The Modelo Especial, but no, it's a light beer. It's sometimes what you need.
On that tack, I'm taking a Sweetwater 420, which is, a fine, solid beer, but, I'm definitely not pushing any envelopes with that. It's the Sweetwater 420 is what I refer to as kind of like after the craft beer revolution. It's basically it's my Bud Light for the post craft beer. It's like the thing you can get at most gas stations, and it's like the let's call it the MDB, the minimally drinkable beer.
Got it. That's a little bit how I feel about 312 or Green Line here in Chicago. It's,
exactly.
It's kind of in that same category. It's like, it's not Bud Light. It's better.
Yeah.
But it's not the bad stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So let's get into so the topic that we're going to take on is so we were talking about this app, and I said that where I am at this point is in an extremely frustrating place. And to be honest, I'm quite jealous of you because it feels to me in projects that I know have a little insight to the working, seems like you have a much easier time pushing through this point than I do, which is I've got some stuff. It works. Parts of this work. It is not a finished app. It is not production ready. It's not usable really by anyone at this point. But I'm not. Now I have to think through what is exactly the delta between what I have right now and something that anybody could use to do anything. So I'm not at MVP. I want to get to MVP. I'm not even sure that I have that identified. So that's kind of the pivot that we took is, okay, before stepping back from the code itself, how do we even address this point? And so that's what we're going to kind of start with. And then kind of once we think we have something kind of reasonable, we'll go from there. And I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen at this point, partly to get my face off the screen.
That's the most important part is to get my face off the screen, your face off the screen. Yeah, you guys don't have to keep staring at us.
Been on fire to get to this point for some time. All right, so let me go ahead. So,
and actually, our faces are still on the screen.
Let me get that
hit the video thing. Try not to actually hang up Skype in the process. Stop video. There we go.
All right, I have to stop my video. And I'm going to try to not hang up. All right. So, okay. So so you have a pretty good feel for kind of where I'm at on this. So let's talk about the things that we need to know. There's a multi-person trip, multi-leg trip that's happening next week with you and a couple other people.
Yep.
We want, I solicited earlier today, everyone's Concur itinerary emails. So what I want to do is like get it so that I can just forward all those emails on your behalves to the thing, have it create all the flights from that, and then go forward, right? So that by next Tuesday, you've got all three of you have all your flights in the system. You're all like anything that would be happening at MVP time exists for you guys. So what we really want is notifications have to exist. If they don't, on flights, let's even do two, let's say exceptions, and then try to think what the other. What I want to say is, so I'm drawing a distinction between like a flight delayed, a flight canceled, and a flight landed.
Got it.
And
just status updates, or yeah, that makes sense.
How about let's call it this?
That works.
So absolutely, and absolutely, the exceptional stuff is more important than the business as usual type updates. They're probably not two different things. But if I could only get one, I would want the exceptions, not the ordinary stuff.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, because if you expect something to be happening, if you don't get more confirmation of your expectation, I guess that doesn't really matter all that much. So, yeah, that's a good distinction.
So let me go ahead and just make that a little bigger. So notifications, I need inbound email action. And ideally, eventually this thing would be able to handle a bunch of different emails. Right now, Concur is what our company uses. So if we can get it ingesting Concur, inbound emails, actions on Concur, and let's specify that create all flights. Associate flights with each user. Okay. And this may actually, I may end up refactoring my data model a little because of this, because right now there's a flight data, and then there's a flight, and the flight has a person associated with it. So if you're all in the same flight, I'm gonna have 3 copies of that flight, which I don't like.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
So I need a many-to-many. I want the flight to kind of be something that exists different from an individual user. And then probably I want to have some kind of many-to-many relationship, maybe with some extra data like seat number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think seat number might just be a mapping of flight to person with seat number, and that might be everything that I need. I might not need anything else. But I'll have to think that through.
Yeah, that actually might be. So I fly Southwest most of the time, and so I will never have a seat number.
That's true. And some of this will probably be driven by the data structure that comes back from SIFT API, right?
Right,
so,
got it.
If it exists there, and it doesn't have to be populated, but if it exists, it could go in there. This notifications also implies, it implies that I need to have some kind of a watch list type functionality, because I need to know who to notify about each of these flights. So clearly the person who's on the flight, so we've got kind of a RIDAC style way of thinking about these flights, right? If you're on there, you're basically responsible for that flight, but you have people that need to be informed, right? If you're sharing a ride with 2 other people from the airport to the hotel and your flight's late, they need to know that. So we need to have some kind of watch list so that we know who to notify for those. And if we had these features, would that be MVP for next week? Would that give you everything you would desire for this? What other things, as a customer, what other things would you like to have by Tuesday? Because I am going to try to build them.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So I think for Tuesday, because in theory, all 3 people that are traveling together are going to have their itineraries in here. So we don't even need watch list by Tuesday. I think we just need, informing people that are directly involved, because if that makes sense at all.
What would be the mechanism? So how would I know, like if your flight's late, how would I know who to inform?
I see what you're saying. So I guess that becomes a question of, do you have a concept of a trip, sort of like an overall? It's not a flight, but
I do have. Do I have that in here yet? I don't have an itinerary yet.
Okay, because it
kind of
almost
what I
makes
need.
sense. Like you would need some kind of overall trip record, and then you could have multiple itineraries. So I send my stuff in, and you send your stuff in, and now both of our trips are, or both of our itineraries are synced to that same, that parent trip record. And potentially, if you were to then say every time, something changes, inform all the people that are somehow associated with the trip.
Yeah, and that goes back to like the original design of this thing. The very, very original design of this happened back when we were all in expert services, and we had the first time we had a platform or like a summit meeting. And, a bunch of us were all coming in to roughly within like a 3-hour period. And the idea was, well, some of us have cars and some don't. And how do we know who's where, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, I believe maybe it was your flight was late. And I remember I was texting people to say, because I knew when everybody's flight was. I was almost cruise directing the whole thing, right? And I had everyone's
travel tracker.
I was exactly that, and I had everyone's cell phone numbers and I had everyone's itineraries, and I knew that you were late, and I said, so I knew who was the next one up, and I texted them and said, "Can you wait for Josh because he needs a ride to the hotel?" So then I said, why does our system not do this? So overall itinerary, and then essentially, when I say watch list type functionality, that's what we're talking about. Is to say. Is we just need a way to identify that this itinerary is of concern to me. And I don't know right now what that would be.
Because you could have, so if you have this sort of parent umbrella trip record, and I send in my Concur email and you send in your Concur email, and they're both associated with that, then I don't know if you need a watch list. The only time you would need a watch list would be for people that
I see what you're saying.
Directly traveling, right?
So what you're saying is the trip is not my itinerary. The trip is a higher level abstract thing.
Yeah.
Which is to say, your platform summit would be a thing, or demo days, or something like that. So the problem being with that is that, so let's use demo days, which is we have at ServiceNow as an example. There might be 60 people traveling in, and you don't necessarily want to be informed about every one of those 60 people.
True.
So you got to be able to carve down smaller groups of this. So maybe we have a group. Maybe we have a call. Well, maybe we have something called a travel group.
I like it. Yeah, travel group, and then so each itinerary exists as its own thing. But then you could add arbitrary itineraries to groups, and people within those groups would know about the other ones.
Let's say a travel group. Let's just kind of sketch it out very quickly. Travel group would be abstract container for a point in time for a duration. Owner, parent of itineraries.
Or potentially a many-to-many if an itinerary could be in multiple groups. Just thinking from a...
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. So, I don't know. Maybe that's premature optimization, but
yeah, I'm fine with kind of in practice. I'll try this, and if it doesn't actually work out, again, I've got 3 days. I basically got a weekend to code like a crazy man on this thing, which is, by the way, kind of my vacation. M2M with itineraries, and so the notifications occur in these groups. So let's say demo groups might be, so in demo days, you would maybe assign a travel group that was, so it would be demo days, platform. So everybody we care about, that we work closely with and kind of are in the same hierarchy, we would associate with that. And then maybe somebody else, the ITOM people have their own group, so they're kind of together. And then I like the many-to-many because you could have somebody in both groups. And so then that's the notification. Mechanism. Is all these things. We don't need all this kind of stuff. We'll treat that as an assumption, design assumption, that if you're in the same travel group, you're all interested in everybody's information. That's kind of the definition of a travel group, is the set of people who are interested in each other.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then the only thing you'd maybe want on top of that, and this is not MVP though, would be maybe you're coordinating with someone local that's not actually traveling and they want to know. So that could be where the watch list comes into play. Somebody that's not
could have
actually
a watch list
traveling.
on the travel group.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not I like that because it saves a lot of busy work, because then you're not you don't have to be a watch list on. So like the idea of being a watch list on flights, right, would just be a drag, because like right there between the three of you, you've got what, nine flights or more. If you have you have 9 legs, and some of those may have more than one connecting flights. So, there could be 15 flights at play here, and you don't want to go set up 15 watch lists you don't want each person to have 15 watch list things.
Exactly.
So you would say, I want to watch this travel group, and then it would descend into the itineraries, and the itineraries have all the flights. But okay, I like that a lot. So and we'll just say watch lists exist here, and it doesn't. Okay. I like this a lot. Okay. So, and by the way, it should be pointed out that, because of kind of the fairly loose way I started coding this, I really started almost code first, right? I spent a little bit of time kind of thinking through data model a little bit. I have some little diagrams drawn out on paper that I kind of idly did at several points, but I didn't put an enormous amount of thought in it, because I've always been on the assumption that I'm basically doing the prototype that I don't mind throwing away. So the prototype itself is kind of like the design doc almost.
Got it.
Okay, so if we can do this, if we could get this stuff, so you've got the travel group, you've got all this happening, inbound email actions that create the flights, that would work for you. You would feel pretty good. This would be worth having for you next week. Is that?
Yeah, this would all be extremely worthwhile. I think this would, this would definitely help that. And then we sort of have some of those people that are going to be, I think, already in those destinations. So all of this is pretty much exactly what we need.
Okay. So then I'm going to do a little bit here, which is that's not what I wanted. So one thing I wanted to point out here is, so we got some of the previous episodes, we did the time zone stuff. I want to hook that to flights. I need to auto create airports. Right now, one of the giant drags of this whole thing is every time, it's very much like the, if you think of this as a product, right, if it was some kind of electronic product, it's very much at the breadboard stage where you got a lot of dangling wires. So all those things we showed before, where we were integrating with the flight status and the FlightAware API, we can do all that stuff, but it involves me manually creating the record. And so we want to get out of that business. And one of the things I do manually create right now is that I create the airport record, and I create a location, and I create a bunch of stuff that I don't want to be in the business of doing. And we were talking before where I found an API that will get the time zone, given a coordinate, will get the time zone. I actually found out that FlightAware has an API to get airport information that includes the time zone. So I kind of have obviated the need for that. So what I want to do is be able to, when you say I've got a flight from ORD to, what's Denver, DEN?
DEN, yep.
So I'm flying from ORD to DEN. And so I want to be able to pass the thing to Concur. I pass the Concur email. My inbound email action is going to call the SIFT API. That's going to get me back a data structure that will have all this information in there, including every flight, which will have the origin and the destination of every flight. I want to be able to then call something in my script include, which will say, do I have that record? If I do, good, give me the SysID. If not, create that record and give me the SysID. All right, so I was working on that a little bit this afternoon. So that's kind of, I've been working on kind of some of the necessary stuff. All right, so this is this is the I think we're done with the project management stuff. But I did want to discuss this because particularly when you're in a project by yourself, you're the only person, you're the only person in it. This can be a tricky thing, right? Because this is not necessarily like this design part of it, or not even the design part, but the identifying the important part is not necessarily my prime skill set, right? So I have to kind of figure out what is a satisfying chunk of work. There's more demonstrable fun stuff that I'd like to do. For example, one of the sponsors from Knowledge 17 was Map Anything, right? And I tried, I put some a little bit of effort into just setting up Map Anything, and it was very easy to start getting some of the data and say, okay, plot out places I'm going to be on a map of the country. It was extremely easy to do that, and so that's kind of fun to play with. But that's actually not it's not the most urgent part of this whole thing. So.
Yeah, it's got the flashy part, but not the necessarily the most important. And that's something. Yeah, I often struggle with that. That was something I ran into with Artifact Manager. Was I had a lot of cool ideas about I want to bring on all this analytics information and stuff. And then you start digging into it, and you're like, this is going to take 80% of the time, to get these cool features that aren't ultimately what I really need.
Right.
The other
meanwhile,
thing,
I can't parse a concur email, which is like
right.
the thing I most need to do. Over
very basic. And I mean, to be honest, even if we were to look at this list we have here now, you could probably, if you really needed to, strip that away even further to say, well, it would be nice to do notifications and have a group, but if you could give people a table and they could actually look at the table, they could also see the details if they really wanted to.
So let's even do that before we even start touching code. Now let's order this list.
So that's got to go.
I think this has to be the top, right?
Yeah.
Got to have that. If you don't have that, then really nothing else works here. The travel group model. Let's do this. So if we're going to do the travel group, the itinerary has to be above that because we do that. The itinerary has to exist before that. Now the only real question is this above or below that other stuff? So where do the two notifications go? We got this chunk and this chunk. So these notifications go, do they go where they are? Or
I think notifications has to come after the group because the people, if you're doing notifications before you have the group, it would only be on the itinerary. The person traveling already knows where they are. So
that's true. Okay.
They don't, yeah.
Fair enough. So we'll do it this way. So this is the order I will tackle these. Obviously we're going to start here and then just go as far as we can. We're not even probably going to get to the inbound email action because we're actually going to be doing this because this will, we'll just start with this stuff. Actually has to kind of go ahead of that even.
Makes sense.
So let's go ahead and start working from there. I also don't want to necessarily expose your itinerary information to the world. Not that I think that's a huge problem, but there may be things in there we don't want to see. So I probably don't want to play with the inbound email action with live data right now.
If you need it, well, I was going to say, if you need it, I can give you, I was in Boston earlier this week and that's already done. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but there are things like flyer number. There are things that there's
fair point.
There's some PII that I don't know that we actually want to have on the screen while we're sharing to YouTube. That's what I'm mostly worried about here.
That is fair and very wise.
All right, let's. So I'm going to set that to the side. So here's what I was working at earlier. I did not make it very far, and in fact, at some point I may need you to cover me because what we're looking at here is my new laptop that is barely set up, and I realize that I don't have Postman installed, and it might be a little tough to drive the FlightAware around. So I'm at the point where I'm creating this record right now. This is, in fact, I've been coding this. This is never run code because I'm kind of building it right now. So I'm creating a function in my script include get or create airport. All I do is pass in the airport code. Here's where the weirdness of the flight data structures come back again. And let me find the. I don't want the code. I want the full. Where's the full API documentation?
And those like 2 links to it, and I can never figure out which one is the right link.
It is a little bit weird. So the thing, this is the API I found later than I was originally looking for. So let me blow this up a little. This might be small.
Oh, and this is the one that does the airport info.
Airport info. So
Got
you
it.
pass it a string, right? And so this is the other thing is, and I don't, if you're a pilot, you probably know, you have a pilot's license, you probably know way more about all this stuff than I do. I'm kind of figuring it out the hard way. I'm reverse engineering a lot of this crap. ICAO is some sort of like country prefixed thing. I think K is America. So LAX is KLAX, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For at least American airports, things in the USA, it will always be your standard, the thing that you recognize as the airport code plus prefixed with K. I don't know, I'm not sure what that does worldwide, but for the US, that
it's K. At least we know that.
K something, right?
Got it.
And but even though you'll notice some of these FlightAware APIs, even though they advertise certain things, like they're saying airport information, you have to pass this in. In practice, I believe that if I passed in ORD, it will still work, right? So I don't believe I have to give it KORD. I think ORD would work. And then let's look at the struct it returns back. You'll notice this is exactly what I want. Latitude, longitude, location, which is just, I believe, the street address. The name, the full name of the airport. So, and I believe it's like this would be Atlanta Hartfield Jackson Airport or something like that. It's I believe probably the full business name of it, and then the time zone.
Oh, beautiful. So that thing that we were struggling to find and figuring out how to.
Yes, it just exists there. It's an API.
It's almost like somebody had this issue when they were trying to do this kind of thing.
Yes. All right. So now what I might need you to do is talk for a minute while I set up Postman. Let me actually, is it worth showing the setting up of Postman? Have we ever done that?
We maybe not, but just do it. Yeah, let's go ahead and set up Postman. It's a different format today anyway, so we're covering some things that we don't always cover.
All right. You talk for a minute while I try.
While you're doing that, ICAO stands for International Civil Aviation Organization Airport Code. It's not a mouthful at all. And there is a whole list of these. So I wonder, and don't have to look for it now, but I suspect there's probably some way to actually get a list of all these ICAO codes, either from FlightAware or some other sort of,
Yes, there probably is. And then that was actually a question I had for myself at one point, which is to say, is there value in pre-populating this?
Mm-hmm.
Is there value in in having basically like a setup style. Like, let's assume that this was a thing I distributed. So basically like a button, like a UI action that says initialize airport info or something like that. It loops over that and then creates all these things.
Right. Yeah, and so, in building integrations in the past and things that have this kind of foundation data, that is a decision you often have to make, which is, do you dynamically create these lookup values as you encounter them? And that kind of has the benefit of, not having to go out there and load all this stuff, deal with data feeds and whatnot. But then the problem is you're sort of reacting to the data in real time. And if there's ever a case where you want to select that data manually, so if you're doing something in a form, it doesn't exist. So that is a design decision. I think for this one, because all the data is automatically coming from emails, you probably could get away with not preloading it and just kind of auto generating as you go. But I guess if you were ever at a point where you wanted to select that data yourself, then you probably would want to go out there and have sort of this foundation data integration where you're, pulling in all of the airport codes, pulling in all of the, any of this other lookup data that you might have to use multiple times.
Yeah, I'm really leaning towards like the not. I'm really leaning towards, because if you think about it, if you've got a nice importation process, so if this works like the way I'm thinking about it working, so that really you just create every airport as you need it, then what you do is you don't have any airport that, there are a lot of airports that none of your users will ever travel to.
Yeah.
So they only exist, and they exist the first time anyone travels to them. So rather than having, the question, I guess, is the only real reason to pre-populate is if it was burdensome to do it real time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really not, right? We've got an API to do it. So I think that kind of answers the question, right? Do we even need to mess around with trying to
Yeah, I think this is that perfect use case for dynamic creation, just because of the nature of what it is. It was that, but the beauty of it is if you start that way. So that is actually another interesting thing. So you can start that way, and then later you can decide or determine that you do want it all preloaded, and then you can do the extra work. Obviously, if you do the extra work, then you've done the work, and if you realize you didn't need it at all, then you wasted the time. So especially when looking at it from an MVP standpoint, I think dynamic is probably a good way to get to MVP.
All right, so let's see. I know that I have set up Postman before. So what we're going to do here, and I might be struggling with this a little bit, is I want to get Postman just so that we can hit the some FlightAware. All right.
And so you're going to go for that airport info first?
Oh, yeah, let's go for airport info.
Cool. The
Now,
question is, what's the endpoint?
Exactly. It's not. So here's the host. And the prefix.
Is it really so?
I think well, here's how we can. No, let's do it this way. Because we have hit things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I've got the REST message. Didn't I do at least one?
There's one.
Let's do this. There's one.
Oh, the /JSON. Okay.
Yeah, so let's not do SIP. So let's go ahead and do this. We can even
avoid the SOAP at all costs.
And let's go ahead and believe that that's a post. And do authorization, headers, body. Put the endpoint in. Oh, the URL goes here. And in the body, set endpoint, get body. I don't even remember what I send to it. Oh, this is a get.
Oh, it is get. Okay.
It's a get.
Oh, yeah. A lot of these even the set alert was a get, which was interesting. So.
And these were ident. Okay. So I'm just going to, I just want to hit it. I don't care if I give it syntactically correct stuff. I just want to see it do something. Just to make sure that all right.
Packet / and you are still in set alert, so you need to change your
I'm going to do get alert and make sure that I can actually just do it.
Okay.
It should give me an error missing. Okay, but it hit it.
Got it. And it wasn't a 401, so that's good.
It wasn't a 401. Okay. So now let's go back over to our airport. Let's see. Airport info.
Should just be the airport info word, I'm guessing.
I think that this is the endpoint. So let's try this.
And I'm realizing now the difference because if you look at the URL of the documentation, this is the SOAP documentation. So it'll probably work, but we may have to switch to.
What if let's just do
JSON?
That.
Yeah, maybe.
Work?
Weird.
Tell you what,
maybe not.
I don't know which. Got two sets of credentials. I think. Let's try this. I hope it doesn't put the password, but we'll see. All right. Yeah, we'll just keep.
Well, I think we can probably just keep working off of this doc.
Yeah, we'll keep working off this. So airport code. So let's go to Postman, and header.
Oh, that's a good question. URL parameter, perhaps.
Parameter. It's a URL parameter.
Got it.
Airport code.
Let's use. Probably want to switch off the headers tab just to be safe.
All right. Update request. I can just send from here, right?
Yeah.
Well, look at that. Now.
First try.
All right. That was good stuff. Now let's see. What happens if we send it ORD and not KORD?
I think it's
going to do an identical thing.
And it does.
It does, which is good because now we don't have to mess around with scrubbing or prepending. So we don't have to look and say, is it 3 characters? And if so, convert it from airport code. I'm just going to send them whatever I get.
Got it.
Now the problem being, the question being, I'm gonna assume this until something breaks and doesn't work, is that although they make specifications in here of what you have to do, I'm going to assume that it is completely interchangeable at every single point that requires either of these things. I'm going to assume that either works. And I'm not going to care what I get until it becomes a problem. This may bite me later on.
But I mean, as long as you're just operating on simple values, if you do run into the issue, you should be able to layer on the functionality as needed.
Okay, let's try this out. Here's an airport I have been to.
HYD, got it. Hyderabad.
Rajiv Gandhi International.
All right.
So
we know it's working in 2 countries.
Exactly. What else can we do?
LHR, yeah.
All right. So I'm going to assume that this works everywhere. So I'm just going to use whatever we parse out of the API. We're just going to use that. Okay. So this is actually looking extremely good. So what we need now, and I'm just going to kind of keep that over there. One of the things that, and I feel kind of like almost like a hack in the like bad golfer sense, not in the computer sense, in that a lot of times I gotta see this work one time because it's the easiest way for me to visualize even from the docs. It's much easier for me to look at an in situ example as opposed to like looking at what the docs say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
I like to have that chunk of JSON. It's very different to me. So here's what I have done up to this point is when I shelled this out, and again, this has never once been run. This is me saying, okay, I want to look to see whatever came into this. And this is me kind of allowing for the fact it might be either one of those things, iCal or the other thing. I look and say, I'm going to query on airport in my travel tracker scope. Is there something with an airport code or an iCal code of the thing that came in?
Mm-hmm.
Where if it exists, that sysid is what I'm returning. If not, create airport, the same string, and I'm going to return that sysid. So now what I don't have is a working create airport function.
Got it. And that's the next thing here.
Now. Okay. And what I'm going to do, because I am an exceedingly lazy person. I don't know if
you and me both.
Yeah. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to take the set alert. We're just going to cut almost everything out of this thing up to here. We'll sculpt out what we don't need later.
Okay, I got it. So in the create airport, you're going to go and actually get that detail.
I'm going to go get the detail we were just hitting.
Got it.
Airport info. So we're just going to change that. This is one thing, like we've done this both ways. You'll notice in that script include, we're doing this both ways, where I've created a REST message and I'm referencing it this way. And then we've done it where we're actually creating the endpoint programmatically here. I actually, having kind of farted around with both, I actually prefer this, I think, because I like the explicitness of this. I like this not depending on this external record that could vary independently.
Yeah, it's a lot more straightforward to me. I mean, you can sit there and you can write code and not have to go elsewhere.
And you can just look at it. You can, by inspection, tell what's happening.
Yeah.
It's got the same authentication profile. It's the same thing. Got the same endpoint. So all this stuff is going to be the same. We don't need channels.
So get rid of
only query parameter we take is airport code, camel case. I just picked that solely because. And you know, I like when I passed that camel case thing, I actually inside myself, I was debating myself whether I'm camel casing that, because I've also got this crazy mix of camel case versus underscore delimited, et cetera, and I kind of decided that I want camel case for all the parameters, and then I don't want to use camel case for anything I define inside. And I don't know if that's even a sensible convention, but it's kind of what I had decided I was going to do for myself.
Got it.
So if I design something, probably end underscore point would make that more clear. That it's almost like just a convention to show the scope of where it was defined.
Yeah, where did it come from? Yeah.
Okay, so status blah blah blah.
Gonna come back. We're gonna get. So the thing I'll change is JSON.
I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Except I'm gonna change this to. Airport info.
Got it.
Airport info, and I think isn't it capitalized?
It is.
They
Airport info
They
result.
drive me insane with their verbs, that some of which are capitalized with lowercase. I am very much not anal. As somebody who has looked at my work product, as you have, you know that I'm kind of if anything, I'm kind of a mess, right? But that really drives me crazy. Okay, so
let's see.
What do I need?
You'll need.
I'm gonna have JSON. I'm gonna have the JSON object. So I need all this stuff, I think. Name. So question is, now here's also a little stylistic thing. I don't know that I need a bunch of I don't know that I need to break down a bunch of variables. I don't think I'm going to.
The only one I would probably do is just say airport equals JSON.airport info result, just to make it easier to say airport.name, airport.location, that sort of thing. But I would agree on the rest, because I don't.
You're saying just do that?
There's going to be, you have to do .airport info result, because that first key in the structure.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, aside from that, I would say.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Directly dereference.
And at this point, airport.name gives me what I want, and so okay. I like that. Then I don't really have to do that much stuff. So then, so now I'm going to create a new airport, and I've got the airport over here to look at the thing. Here's something that really bugs me from the what do you notice is missing from this? You got name,
the AIO code.
Exactly. If it returned both of those things, if it returned the airport code and the iCal code from this, it would be perfect. This
it's a little weird.
Would convert exactly into my airport data structure, and it doesn't have that. It's like, why do you not just echo that back out, or like echo them both back out?
Because then you could at least normalize them, which is going to be a challenge here, because you don't know. Say an email does come back with the full thing, or that's weird.
Okay.
Future version.
Or okay, let's call it airport GR. No, I don't like that. Whatever.
I always prefix with GR, so I go like GR airport. GR airport. That's just me. It's a little cleaner looking.
Equals new. The question being, can I remember a thing from a minute ago? No, I can't.
I certainly can't.
That's we were discussing this when we did our unconference session about live coding. We did mention that it takes a certain amount of doing this takes a certain amount of willingness to just look stupid in front of the world. Right?
We've both accepted it.
I mean, I'm so calm about it, really. All right, because we're gonna do something stupid practically every. Oh, okay. So, and actually, this is not intentional. It's mostly. Here's the. So this kind of sucks. I'm not gonna worry about the longitude for right now.
Okay. I see where that's going.
Because I have this indirection. I made a decision that I probably don't like in retrospect, which is airport is wrapping a reference to a location. So now what that implies is I do actually have to create something in the location table, and I don't know that I like that. I might just, if the only things I care about are latitude and longitude, because now what you basically have to do is double entry, right? I have an airport, and for my airport to do everything that I need, like I want the geography, right? For that to exist, I have to go make sure that because like map anything consumes this table. So it has to exist in both places, and that just kind of sucks.
I wonder if you could extend location instead of referencing it.
You can't. There's a reason why I use this decorator thing. It's because out of the box, CMN location is not extensible, and I did not want to make the first thing you have to do to use my application make you reconfigure a core table to be extensible.
Yeah,
I did not want that.
That makes sense.
But the question being, do I need anything else that's in location except the coordinates? And probably not.
Probably not.
And in fact, because I have this now, I think this actually changes the calculus of my original decision. The fact that I can now kind of trivially get the location, then what I can actually do is I can make a longitude and latitude table in here, call it good, and then I can drive map anything off of this table.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm guessing that map anything has a little bit more flexibility about where you get the data from.
You can tell it like you can tell it like location. It knows which tables are already kind of geocoded. But you could also tell it. You could say that this this thing is its street address field. This column contains the street address. The set of columns contain the street address. This is the longitude column. This is the latitude column, and then it will actually geocode and save it back for you if it doesn't exist. So it does some sweet stuff. So in the future, I will show map anything. They're actually from around here, so they're friends. I met them on the airplane coming back from Knowledge. Okay, so set value. So I'm going to set name. Set the name to be the name for my airport.
Makes sense.
And
I'm just realizing we're missing one thing, which is an initialize or a new record.
And we did that whole thing with Chuck, and that was a tech now.
New record brings default values. Initialize does not.
Okay, I initialize because I don't really have any default that's sensible in here.
Yeah, it's about the simplest table you can possibly have.
Let's copy this and let's just. And am I going to have to coerce to string, or is it going to know that I'm string from this JSON? So notice I have a coercion in a previous stuff, and I'm wondering. I can't remember if I had a.
I think it should coerce it, because especially if it's a string field.
Let's start with that. Oh, you know what? I'm driving on that. I don't know that I have.
Oh, because you had a reference.
Exactly. So I don't want that. So I'm going to skip that for now.
So just the name.
But again, if I change, instead of using the reference to location, if I just have just a location string, then I will literally just splat that in there.
Got it.
And like this is not very granular, right? This is pretty coarse. London, England for Heathrow. So it's not even a street address. It's actually kind of useless. Let's just do longitude. Now, you know what? And that doesn't exist either. So for now, we're just literally going to do name and time zone. That's the only thing we're going to do now. Airport time zone. And was it time zone?
Yep. Yeah, it's just time zone.
Okay. So I'm really just going to create that airport. Insert.
And then you have to. Can you directly return airport.insert? Because you need to get the sysid back, right?
Yeah, I was
just return the dot whatever.
Yeah, I was
dot
just
get unique value.
I was just going to return the get unique value resulting from that.
That makes sense.
No error checking at this point. There could be some. All right, we're going to just do that right now. And at that point,
I think that's it.
Create airport. That's going to return sysid. That's going to return the sysid. So doing get or create airport and passing any airport code should give us back a sysid pointing to an airport record, which we can then use in our reference field for when we set up our flights. Okay? That's what all this stuff has been about. All right, now the fun part. Let's slide this over.
Testing.
Let me go ahead and actually, before you even do that, let me take my debugging. Did I already get rid of my debugging? So let's just GS debug some of this stuff before we do that.
Or what about breakpoints instead?
Oh, let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. What about breakpoints, says Josh? Yes.
Yes. I always have to remind myself. I still forget to this day. Every time. Well, not every time. I forget this time.
And it's been long enough. What's this script runner? JavaScript.
Are you looking for the debugger or?
Debugger.
I think just look for debugger. Yeah, script debugger.
I have. You can see that around knowledge, I just did not do a lot of coding. All right. All right. Now we're going to go over to scripts background for this guy. Let's do another thing. I need our scope creep. In a complete tangent. Anytime you're watching any sort of video, like a marketing video that includes ServiceNow web pages, like those ones that they show, like they showed several of them at Knowledge. Anytime you can see a browser bar, look for the name of the instance that's in the browser bar. It's like an Easter egg. There's at least one point where you will see this instance in one of those marketing videos. But I was enjoying it. Always makes me happy. I was like, oh, that's a dev instance. Yeah. Oh no, that's they use Demo Nightly for that one. Okay.
That's awesome.
So
forever in the marketing
videos. As soon as a marketing video pops up, that's the first place my eye goes is the browser bar to see what's in there. All right, so here's some of the ones that exist. So let's go ahead and do one that we know is in there. So we need to, and I'm going to expose how desperately.
Have to remember what the actual script include is.
Yeah, exactly. And you notice that this is one of the ones where after I updated it, we lost a little.
Oh yeah, I got a little bit of a stack issue there.
Our destination change. So I actually don't need to scope it because I'm going to run it from the scope. All right. FAU equals new. And I'm going to do FAU.get. Let's say GS debug. U.get or create airport code. ATL.
And ATL, you said does exist already.
It does exist in there.
Got it.
You're looking at a list of airports I go to. I have been to. none of this came out of thin air. All right. Does that get or create airport code?
That should do
get
it.
Or create airport code is get or create airport.
Oh, airport. Oh, that makes sense because we're not actually creating an airport code.
Okay. All right, let's run it. See what happens. Error, not error. Holy guacamole! Is that the right?
Brought it all in, except it was already all in there. So might have to go in and like clear out a value or something.
Yeah, no, right. I'm saying. Oh, I just want to see did it find the one? Copy sysID.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
So I'm just gonna put it up here.
EE6.
That's the one. Okay, so
yeah.
Return. That was correct. All right, now, oops, one too many. ORD. I think 2 is plenty to verify that we're doing this right. ORD. Don't tell me it's just going to run the first time without issue. 242. Okay.
EB1.
Great.
Man. Cool.
All right. So that part worked. Now let's go for broke. Let's look at our list. Let's sort by airport code.
Do Seattle.
SEA. Okay. Seattle it is. Here's where we get crazy. Will this one just run? I'm going to bet against it just because I hate to not be optimistic, but just I have empirical history with this particular developer.
Create airport is not defined.
Create airport.
Oh, is there not a this dot?
Oh, I did not. Okay. All right.
Getting closer. Oh, and Casey in chat says Denver. I don't know if Denver is already in there.
All right.
Start debugging.
You know what? For this one, I'm just going to let it roll. Look at that. Now, we got a sysID.
Beautiful.
I'm just going to let that roll too. Should be done. Okay. So we got a sysID. Let's go back to our list. Let's refresh.
And
I do not. Ooh, this looks
bad.
Close.
I mean, it created it, but nothing.
We don't have the airport code. We don't have the name, but we do have the time zone. That's the right time zone. All right. So let's do it again.
With a colon in front of it.
With a colon. So something All right, so now we do need to. All right, Denver, it is. Now we are going to step through, see what is going sideways in there. So it looks to me like we went through a certain chunk of this. All right, so at this point, let's look at our JSON over here. And there's our body, airport info, result, et cetera, GR airport is undefined. Yeah, because we're about to define it. Airport code is Denver. Airport object has name, Denver International, time zone. And actually, the time that did actually correctly come in.
Oh, weird. Except it said America Los Angeles. This one is America Denver.
Well, we did Seattle the first time.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So this is
to the colon. That's interesting about the colon.
So we might have to strip that off. Does that
almost like it's parsing?
Is it like that? Oh, it was. It was preceded with a colon.
Oh yeah.
I will be damned. Okay.
Huh.
Okay. So we got. So now this. Let's step through this. I don't actually want to do that. I want to step over. I don't think there is anything it would step through.
Yeah.
So GR airport. This might come down to that coercion issue. So why did the name not get set? I want to know.
So it looks like GR airport is actually expandable at the bottom there. So you can look at the glider occurred.
Name.
So name is Denver International.
Time zone is American
Denver.
Let's go ahead.
Oh, well, no, yeah, it looks like it should be fine.
Right to me. All right, now let's go. We got a SysID. Do we have Denver?
We do not.
Another empty.
Does it have something to do with our set value? Let's look at. I can't imagine why it would.
Am I doing something wrong there? Set value, name, airport name.
And we saw. Well, yeah, we saw it happening.
We saw it in the glide record.
Right.
Is this a glide record secure issue?
Are you? Except you're using glide record.
I'm using glide record and not glide record secure. Do I need to use glide record secure?
Shouldn't have to. I mean, if nothing else, glide record should have access to everything. So you should be fine.
Let's do one crazy possibility.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
I don't know that this has anything to do with anything. I'm going to keep using Denver and Seattle because since they're not coming in with it's not going to find because they don't exist in there. Let's try it one more time. Same thing.
And we got a comment from Tariq in the chat. It says, check the field's name. Maybe it's U_name. We can double check that field name.
We can double check that right now. But it is name.
Yep, there's name.
I have no U_ fields at all in here. That is name. All right. Where did my debugger go? And again, so like our airport is scoped. So it's got the name right there.
And now it's got a SysID. It's got.
But names and look at that. Names undefined.
Oh, it goes away.
The name. I think this might be a glide record secure thing.
Do you have ACLs on there or?
Not that I know of.
Is there a default value? I'm just trying to think. What could possibly be causing that? So create, right? Yeah. What's your red ACL look like? Yeah, check your airport user. And I mean, because it's glide record, it should be able to write to any field unless you had some ACLs that were really locking things down, which looks pretty normal. What if you just try hard coding that value? Just hard code the value to something.
Oh, you know what? We're setting the name. One thing we're absolutely not doing here is setting the airport code.
Oh, fair point.
So the airport code. So this might actually be the entirety of the problem, because we're probably
Perhaps
not looking
some
we look at the
validation.
airport code. Yeah, airport code. Oops, I just confused myself. Airport code. This is the thing we were saying before, is why didn't it just split it back out? All right, so let's try that. Let's go back and do this. Where's my, I gotta find this, so let's just let it roll. We'll insert another copy.
In a weird way, I feel better about this episode now because we're getting to fight something.
Yeah. I felt fine with it either way. Okay, so one of the nice things about having an extremely loose format is that who can tell if you break it or not? Airport code is in there. So now the airport object.
It's all good.
Let's do the GR airport. Should be mostly empty. Airport code. Insert. All right. Now let's go back over here. Refresh list. There's our Denver. All right. And the whole thing is us, just the fact that the name wasn't. No, you know what? It's still not populating the name.
Yeah, it's getting rid of the other things. So do you have, is there some kind of a calculation business rule default value on the name field, perhaps?
Business rules. Default place name.
Oh.
That's place.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Populate flight ID, look up time zone. No.
What about on the field itself, like a default value or calculate?
Name has no default value.
Huh.
Let's do set display value. Right, that is the display value, right?
True. It's just still weird because we know we're setting it by watching the debugger.
I know.
On set.
So set display value. If I do that, am I just gonna?
You have to take out the name. Yeah.
Just gonna do that. Yeah, it is weirding me out that that's not saving.
Yeah, that's the part that doesn't.
All right, so now actually, let's do Seattle. Go ahead and delete these empty things. Go ahead and delete all those that are lacking the names. So the other thing being that we need to, at some point, I need to strip out that colon.
Mm-hmm.
But by and large, this is actually, so we're almost there. If we get this thing working, then this is kind of like one of those building blocks that I just need to exist. And now that it exists, that actually makes my inbound email action that much more doable, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead and skip the debugging because.
I think, if you just close the. Oh, that's interesting.
Method not allowed. Set display value not allowed in scope SN travel tracker. I think we might be on. This might be onto something. This might be something about the set display value. If I can't set it, if I can't run this in a scope, maybe that's why I can't save it.
Maybe there's some weird quirk with set value. So just do gr airport dot name equals instead of set value equals.
Let's do that. Let's do that as the last thing.
Yeah.
See if it works. We'll just try that. If not, then that becomes a research topic for this because we are kind of at time. Gr dot name equals. And I'm going to assume that I don't have to coerce it because I don't think that's a problem.
Yeah, agreed. And as we tend to do, we may have identified something weird today.
There you go. All right. Anybody think I wouldn't use set display set value?
Yeah, and so yeah, Craig, we actually were using set value before.
Yeah, that was where we started with. We were just that was just an experiment to change it to that. All right, last swing at the pinata. And did my whole record fail that time? It probably did.
I'm gonna guess.
Did it have to create it? Yeah, it didn't create anything.
Yeah, it just bombed out.
All right, so we're not doing anything but directly. The only difference is now we're just taking the airport.name, setting it to that value, and then saving it. And we'll go ahead and step through. And again, GR Airport.
Denver.
Name is Denver International. See, I think it's going to do nothing different because.
Yeah, still the same weirdness.
It's the same. Well, essentially, we've got the identical. Field name and object. Chuck is saying it takes two parameters. And I'm going to say it probably is going to be empty. We're going to see Denver in there with no name. So I'm not crazy. You guys are watching it. Clear that out. The glide record off.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do one more thing. We'll try Chuck's thing. Airport.set. See, look at that. It's not even.
Yeah, set display values is not even showing up.
It's not even showing up as a.
Which is weird.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether we set.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, so set display value is generally for reference fields. So I don't think we're going to have any success using that here. Because we're setting it on a string field. There is one thing you could try in lieu of that though, which would be to do grairport.set workflow false, just to turn off business rules in case something's happening somewhere.
I'm okay with that. Set.
That way we at least get rid of that.
All right. This is the very last.
The last thing.
This is the very final last thing. All right, here we go. Oh, okay. We have one more last thing after this. We'll try this.
Oh yeah, I see Chuck's thing. Oh wait, that looks. Well.
It didn't skip. It didn't hit any of our breakpoints. I'm not sure exactly why not.
Oh, we didn't remove it before, so it didn't try to recreate it.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
So we gotta.
Let's delete this and do that again. I could use a different airport, but
what's the fun in that?
What is the fun in that? All right.
All right. So we got our cross-code privilege.
Boom. Set workflow. So a business rule is running that is wiping that out.
Okay. So that's the research project. But at least we know.
Yes.
Yeah. At least we know we're not completely crazy. I mean, we might be crazy, just not for this reason.
Okay, cool. So now really the only thing is I just got to add a slight bit of cleanup, which is I need to strip a prepended colon. I'm not sure if colon is a valid character. I'm going to assume I'm just going to do all stripping of all colons and assume that I don't believe that that's a valid character in a time zone.
Yeah, it doesn't.
The center of a time. I'm not worried that I'm going to be devalidating an existing real time zone. So at that point, so I've got a colonectomy. Yes, Chuck, that's exactly what I'm doing. Chuck's jokes make it on here even when he doesn't. Okay, so I'm probably going to, as a part of what we were talking about before, I'm going to do the refactor of this. I have just convinced myself over the course of the last hour, I no longer like having this CMN location. I don't care about anything but just the location. If I wanted to, I could always have some other process that goes in and actually gets their street address. If there's like some other API that I could get the actual like Atlanta, Hartsfield, Jackson's mailing address, basically like their street mailing address. But since I don't, the only thing I would use that for is to generate this, and I've already got this, so I don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's only two things I want. There's only really two things there are two things that I want to know from their location, and that is what time zone they're in, and what's their location. I've already got it.
Yep.
So we're just going to use FlightAware as the single source of that data, and everything else I don't care about. And so that actually way simplifies the act of creating one of these airports.
That makes sense.
So I'm completely good with that. So now let me pull this back. So we're pretty good on these parts. So this one basically happened. That happened over the course of this. Now, using that stuff we showed with Moment.js before, I should be able to ingest. I should be able to turn my stuff to GMT, because somewhere in there is Moment, and all I need to do now that I can, given an airport code and a time, of a flight, which will happen from an itinerary. Let me actually just pull up. This could be dangerous to pull up my email. Maybe I won't do that.
Yeah, I was waiting on that one.
Okay, maybe after the next time, I definitely don't want to consume all the live coding happy hours with this thing. So I'm always happy to defer if you guys have something you want to show. The next time I show it, and it doesn't next week or whenever it happens, I will kind of show what I've done, which is that the SIFT API has some of this data structure stuff. So it's going to have an array of flights, and the flights will have origin, destination. They'll have times for both. So at that point, given the airport code, I can now get the time zone very easily. I will just get or create airport. When I do that, the time zone will fall out of it exactly from this thing, right? That we're going to automatically be creating. So now I can say Moment.js, it's at noon, Denver time, GMT. Now I put that into the flight data structure, which is up here. And so now we're in that ideal where all times in here will be GMT. I'm going to insert that GMT, and then we can display it or we can do whatever, but they will never be inserted into the database in anything other than GMT. So we're really far down the line of that. So even though we only did one line item, it's a very crucial line item, right?
Yeah, it drives everything.
It drives everything. So now all that other stuff is relatively trivial compared to all that stuff. So now the thing that I need most, I can once I get my data structure from SIFT, and we already did SIFT in a previous episode, so I can pass the email that I get. I just pass the whole email into SIFT. I'll get back the data structure. So I'm offloading and outsourcing all the work to it. I'm going to walk over its data structure, and for every flight I find in that itinerary, I'm going to create a flight record over here. Then I'm going to associate that flight record with the user that I'm on whose behalf I'm running this email, which for purposes of next week will be faked up because I'll have to change it in the database afterwards. But it would be driven by who's sending the email, right?
Got it.
And then it will automatically do all that stuff. Where it has the workflow on the flight that when it gets within 2 days, it looks up the stuff, it registers the endpoint, it does all that stuff. So all the status updating stuff, which we have done, months ago, all that stuff is ready to go. And so then the next thing is I do these databases. Yeah, these are pretty simple work, right? This is really just setting up some tables. There's almost nothing there's no development in here. It's just creating data model stuff. When I'm done with all of that, now this is actually also straightforward, right? So I will probably collapse these back into one, right? Because I don't believe that there's going to be a distinction. So anytime the webhook gets hit for one of these flights, I'm going to say everybody in here gets the notification that a thing happened.
Yep, that makes sense.
From here on out, I'm going to say, and I can do a little bit of stuff like saying this flight that X, Y, and Z are on is late, on time, left, landed, etc., etc., etc. Was canceled, is delayed, was rescheduled, whatever. Anytime the webhooks gets hit, to cut one, will be to indiscriminately send a notification on everything. We probably want to tune it later because we do have a category, right? That same channel business that we were looking at before, there's like 6 different categories of notification. Like I know the type of status event that's happening when it hits the webhook. And so we're actually almost, even though, so this is where this is nonlinear, right? We got 8 things in here. We did 1 out of the 8 or 10 line items. But in fact, there's probably only 5 hours of work or less for the whole rest of everything.
Yeah. Well, and the beauty of this, I mean, to me, this kind of shows and highlights how much value there is in taking a step back and trying to plan this out. Because if we hadn't, you might have gone out there and tried to build your notifications, and then you realize you need other stuff, and then you're jumping all over the place, trying to build pieces of functionality until you hit a wall. And so, yeah, just taking a step back is a good idea.
Yeah. And the other thing about that is it's just kind of like the, it's like a 12-step organization inventory, right? I felt like yesterday, I would say I felt kind of hopeless. I felt like I was screwed on this, like that I've been spinning my wheels for a long time, that I put a lot of effort into it and it's not even usable. And now what am I going to do? Right. And so it was kind of depressing, honestly. And so now we didn't even work on this for the hour. We worked on it for I guess maybe an hour because we started late, right? We worked on it for less than 60 minutes and we really moved the ball down the field and got it to kind of where we needed it to go. So I feel extremely good about that. And so I might very well have this usable for you before the end of the weekend. So if you start getting, awesome. you might start getting some weird emails, my friend.
I'm looking forward to it.
Look where they come from. If they come from EMP D Slusher, it was all me. So remember our Easter egg. Always hunt for the Easter egg. If you see EMP C Tomasi, EMP J Nerius, you know who worked on that demo that you're watching on the marketing video. Also, I have always urged everyone to always use your own employee instance exactly for that. Don't give them a dev instance. Nobody knows what dev 11732 means.
Immortalize yourself.
Exactly. All right. How do you feel about? I don't even remember what your beer was. Oh, is it Modelo? Is that what you're having?
Yeah, my Modelo Especial. Yeah, it's just middle of the road. It's a 3.
My 420. I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna call it 3.5. Okay. I mean, I enjoy them. They're again, it's better than a Michelob Ultra. But it's basically that role in my personal ecosystem. So
works.
All right. Super fun, man. This is actually thought it was going to be less fun than this because I really was so depressed about this. And I wanted to spend a lot of time this week working on it for obvious reasons. I couldn't, or obvious to Josh, not obvious to the audience, that we had another thing we had to do that just consumed all the oxygen in the room. And so, and then same thing happened today. I said, if I put 3 hours into this before live coding happy hour, I might really have something. And I never got the 3 hours. I had 5 minutes. So the other beautiful thing about these kinds of things is getting the difference between moving the ball down the field and not can often be how small can you decompose tasks, right? Because you're not going to get 8 hours to work on this. Can you break this down so that you can tangibly move the project forward in 30 minutes? Like that breakdown that we did with the Evernote document, right, is kind of that. It's it's very much like doing an agile story type breakdown, which when it's just you don't have that whole mechanism working, right? So figuring out how you can get some of that value for yourself and say, okay, what are the things I can do I don't want to think about anything that's more than a 15-minute chunk because I don't really get too many units of time that are bigger than that. So 15, 30 minutes, what can I do in any given block? And then look at that and move it forward. And then that's the difference between a successful and unsuccessful personal project in my estimation.
No, I think that's absolutely accurate. Yeah. And just mentally, now you can go and bite it off and take care of it.
You don't have to, it's the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. All right. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody that watches later. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Chuck in the Peanut Gallery and Craig Stepp. And who else was in there? Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Casey.
Yeah, I think that's it. And thank you, Dave.
All right. We will see you again next week. And hopefully we'll be close to weekly through the summer. There will be some stuff where, if everybody's out, then it may not happen. But we're going to shoot for closer to weekly. And we're going to try to get a little deeper bench so that we can maybe have some even when your regulars are not all here. So thank you.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. See you later next week.